for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What's up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I'm here with my co-host, Ian Gibson. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Okay, so we're going to be quick today. We kind of, our wires got crossed here with trying to organize when we could do this show. So we're going to be super quick with this one. It's not going to be a normal one where we a little more elaborate with things. We're going to just kind of zoom through things. Okay, so this is the Week 10 preview show. First game we have is Tulane UTSA. Tulane, they are a team that, besides that Ole Miss beatdown, have looked pretty good most of the year. And, they beat Duke, which is a Power 4 team. One of the games recently, they beat Army. That was a close game, but they still came out on top. UTSA is kind of struggling. They've looked somewhat up and down last couple of weeks. Games against Texas State and Temple. Their quarterback McCown looked all right in those games. They lost to Temple and they beat Texas State. But in this game, I'm going to say Tulane wins just because I feel like Tulane's a better team right now, and Tulane has some loftier goals. Not just winning this game, but like potentially winning the American and potentially getting to a playoff spot. So I'm gonna say Tulane wins like 27 to like 21. What do you got?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be pretty close too. I like Tulane's defense has done very well. They've had a lot of close games with Army, Eastern Carolina. But yeah, after that Ole Miss loss, they've really kind of gotten it together, and the defense has been really good. I want to see more out of the offense, and that might be the only thing that might, hold them back. Because we know UTSA, it's either all in or all out on their offense. They only scored 17 in that blowout last time against North Texas, but then they blew out Rice. In this one, though, I think Tulane gets the edge in a close one. I'm going to go with like a 27-17 win for the Green Wave.
Nice. Okay. Next game we have is Penn State, Ohio State. Now, I just want to briefly say it is Halloween, and I didn't want to mention that because we don't have much time to talk about it. But this is why I got the colors back here, and I'm wearing the ghost shirt. It's my tradition. I wear it. At least want to acknowledge that. I didn't get to acknowledge it at the start. No, this Penn State game, like beginning of the year, people would have thought this was going to be the biggest game in the Big Ten. And this is going to be a snoozer. Like Penn State has lost Alar for the year. Their backup he's just kind of whatever. Drunkenmeyer, he had 93 yards against Iowa. And 2 interceptions. I don't know what to make of this team now because the defense is still strong, so they'll keep them in this game. But Ohio State has put up huge numbers against everyone they've played, and not really anyone has really had anything to stop them. Basically, the Washington game and the Texas game were about the only thing that really slowed down Ohio State, and that Texas game was the first game of the year. I guess the Washington game and the Illinois game are the most indicative of how good Ohio State is, and they looked really good. They were +3 in the turnover margin in that Illinois game. They were -1 in that turnover margin against Washington. Thus, while Washington was kind of in that game, but I don't know. Defensively, Ohio State has kept teams in check. They've been able to keep really good players from going off. Damon Williams had, not a very good game, 173 yards passing, -28 rushing. Altmaier for Illinois, he had a decent game, 248, but he had an interception. And it was really those fumbles, too, that kind of crushed Illinois' momentum there in that game, because Ohio State didn't really outgain them in that game. It was 272 to 295, but Ohio State came out on top. I'm going to say Ohio State in this one pretty easily. I feel like they're just a better team. They've got momentum. They've got better players. They've got their coach, like James Franklin is fired. So I'm going to say Ohio State wins pretty easily. I'm going to say like 31 to like 14. What do you got?
Yeah, and my whole thing is like if Northwestern and Iowa could hold them to like 24 points and 21 points each, Ohio State still has the number one defense in the Big Ten and top 5 in the country. So they're just going to run circles around Penn State. I don't see them getting even 20 points, and I think Ohio State runs away with it. It doesn't. That's the thing with how good Ohio State is right now when they're playing teams like this. The offense doesn't need to be like hitting on all cylinders when you have, the defense as good as it is right now. So I'm going to take the Buckeyes winning. I'm going to go with let's do like a 35-17 win. And I mean, like, man, if you thought it was bad before with Penn State, now you got to play Ohio State, then Indiana back to back. So, have fun with the coaching search.
Yeah, they're going to
get look forward to.
Yeah, they're going to get smoked the next couple of weeks. Okay, moving on to Vanderbilt, Texas. Vanderbilt, 2 of the games recently that they've played, a win against LSU and then a win against Mizzou. Pavia hasn't put up huge numbers, 129 passing yards against Mizzou, 20 yards rushing and a TD. Against LSU, he was 160 in a TD, but he also ran for 86 yards and 2 TDs. So a better game against LSU. I think LSU's defense was kind of overrated in the beginning of the year because they were playing some weak offenses. And I think Mizzou's defense is stronger, and that's why they had a little bit rougher numbers there for Pavia. But, Perbrula breaks his ankle, and, looked like Mizzou was kind of in control of that game up until that unfortunate injury. So Vanderbilt escapes there, a close game. This Texas team is way more talented than Mizzou. I feel like Arch will be able to do some things here. Last week against Mississippi State, he had 346 yards passing. They struggled against Oklahoma, but I think their defense is sound enough to really keep Pavia somewhat in check, but it doesn't have to be like nothing. But I think Vandy's going to score again like 17, 20 points. And then I think Texas is capable of scoring like, 24, 27. So I'm going to say like a 27-20 game. What do you got?
I think in this one, first of all, if you were to tell me that the top 10 team going into this game would be Vanderbilt, again, dude, for anybody who doesn't remember what 2007 was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I think defensively is going to be the key because this is going to be, besides Alabama, obviously, the toughest defense Vandy is going to play so far. As good as LSU was, I think Texas's defense has bailed them out of a lot more games, and the only exception has been the Florida game and the Mississippi State shootout they had. Other than that, the defense has lived up to the billing. They have looked good. It's the offense that has been stuck in the mud. But if they can keep this a one-score game throughout the game and not let Vandy get away with a 2-possession lead, Texas has got them right where they want them. They're at home. I feel like it's going to be – because Texas really has been playing with fire with, playing 2 bad teams going into overtime, and Vandy has certainly come in, fully loaded. But I feel like – I don't know. I feel like I trust Texas's defense to get enough stops that they would win a really close one. So I think the Longhorns are going to pull off the upset. Somehow this is my upset with Vanderbilt losing. But I think Texas gets it done. I think the defense kind of saves the day. And if they can win, the other one that is going to be key is where they are. The kind of starting field position is going to be what decides this game. If Texas can keep them at the other side of the 20 and 30, and those punts get, Texas to their 30 or 40 or Vandy's 30 or 40, shorter fields mean easier time for the offense to operate. So I think the Longhorns get it done. I'm going to go with a close one. I'll go with a 23-20 win for Texas.
Okay, next game we have is Miami SMU. I feel like coming into this game, after they smoked Stanford and that loss to Louisville, I mean, I don't know what to make of this Miami team because it's like this game and the Pittsburgh game are their last real big hurdles the rest of the year. And I feel like they will struggle in that Pitt game. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to be a cold weather game, and Pitt is somewhat resurgent here with that freshman quarterback. But as far as SMU, last week losing to Wake Forest, Jennings, I don't know, looked just not good in that game, and he is basically the biggest offensive piece that they have. I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're more in danger, Miami is, of losing the Pitt game. I think they're a better team than SMU, even though Rhett Lashley is going to want to win this game big time. Like, he used to be the coordinator at Miami, and I think he's going to want to circle this game. But at this point, with already losing to Wake Forest and a lot of their hopes for an ACC championship are kind of out the window, I don't think. Well, actually, they're not, because they only have one loss. That's right, because their other two losses are TCU and Baylor. My bad.
Yeah.
No, so they still have a lot to play for. Okay, so this is interesting then. I don't know what to make of them, because it's like they have struggled in these three games. The loss to Wake Forest, and Wake Forest is not a terrible team. They're 5-2 right now, so they're definitely a team that is in the mix in the ACC. I think Miami, I think they have a better team, obviously talent-wise. But again, it always comes down to Beck. If Beck makes the mistakes like he has in the Louisville game, that he has in other games throughout his career, if he makes a lot of turnovers, then it puts a lot of pressure on the defense to really stop the opposing team's offense, which, against Louisville, they really struggle to do. I don't know if Jennings is good enough to really dominate this Miami team, because I think he's not going to be able to run wild like he's used to against inferior talented teams. Miami is very good at keeping, running quarterbacks in check for the most part. So I'm going to say Miami wins this one. I'm going to go I'm in the 20s with a lot of these games, but this is just what the scores are really coming out to be. I'm going to say a 27-17 game. What do you got?
I think in this one, it's going to come down to how well the passing offense for Miami does, because SMU has been giving up an average of 300 yards passing per game. So they have got to exploit that. And if they don't, it's going to be a lot of trouble, similar to the Louisville game. I feel like, though, with guys like Malachi Toney, the wide receivers can get enough space for that against that SMU defense that they can get some big plays on them. And also, too, I don't see SMU's offense. Miami still has the number one defense in the ACC. And I don't see that offense being able to produce as much as I would see them against SMU's defense, Miami's. So I think in this one, I think SMU would keep it close, but I feel like Miami just pulls away in the end. Again, this is typical trap game for Miami. This is the first time they're leaving the state of Florida, and we're going to be in November at that point.
That's crazy.
That's pretty wild.
2.5 months into the season, and they have not left the state.
Yeah. So I feel like in this one, typical trap game in Miami, we know how they do with those, but I think they get it done. And I think they pull away late, kind of similar to how they had a big second half against Stanford. I'm going to go with a 31-17 win for the Canes.
Okay, next one up is the game, the G5 game of the week. G5 Gibson, go right ahead.
So obviously these two teams, North Texas, Navy, so much is on the line here. North Texas has only lost to USF, but now with that USF losing to Memphis, the door is still open for them to backdoor into this. And that's going to have to start with this game against Navy. Now, they're at home. It's going to be a noon game in Texas. And for Navy, this is what it's going to come down to. Navy has got to find a way defensively to just straight out. Messamaker has been on fire the last couple. Ever since that second half against USF, he's been on a roll. So now it's up to Navy's defense to find a way to kind of do what USF did. Get pressure on him, get him uncomfortable, maybe make him move in the pocket, because they gave up over 32 to Florida Atlantic, which isn't as strong. They won close against Temple. They had to win close against Air Force. Navy's another team that's kind of been dancing around the fire. But the key to them will be how well they do against Messamaker. And one of the things is not only defensively, can they play keep away? And Navy's some of the best in the country with that. Obviously, when you have a quarterback who's an old human bulldozer like Horvath, you can just milk that clock, make it third and manageable. But it's real kind of different parallels, because we see North Texas doesn't take a lot to score points quick. And Navy will try to play keep away as much as possible. I feel like in this one, I think North Texas gets it done. I think they pull off a huge upset and they make the American even more chaotic, because Navy has been really against teams that they are just straight up better than. They won by 10 against Florida Atlantic, but then they only won by 1, and they only won by 3 against Air Force in the last second. I like Messamaker in the North Texas offense. I don't feel like playing keep away would be good enough for them against North Texas. So I think the Mean Green get it done. They get the win, and then the race is wide open again for if Navy loses, and North Texas is right back into it. So I think North Texas wins. I'm going to go with 34-27 win for the Mean Green.
Yeah, I mean, Messamaker had 600 yards passing the other week, and like he just can put up a ton of numbers. They have a ton of wide receivers that are fully capable in the offense. Morris runs that air raid, and they're all about throwing it deep, making explosive plays. And a key thing with North Texas, if you see the game against UTSA, they had a 3+ turnover margin. In the win against USF, or the loss against USF, they had a -2 turnover margin. And so it is vital for them to be able to, 1, take care of the ball, and 2, create some turnovers, which I think is possible with Navy, but it's not going to be many. They just have to be more concerned about ball security. So if Nestamaker can stay away from throwing picks, he had 3 against USF. If he can limit those mistakes and try to get 1 or 2 fumbles by Navy, they should be, in control of this game. I feel like their offense is high-powered enough to score enough points quickly, which I think Navy's going to struggle to keep up with. So I'm going to say it's going to be like a 34-20 game. Okay, moving on. We've got Indiana and Maryland. This Maryland team is pretty scrappy. They were in games with UCLA and Washington, 1-score games, 3 points to UCLA, 4 to Washington. The defense is strong enough that they, kept Damon somewhat in check. I mean, Damon still had 275 yards and 54 on the ground. But I think Indiana's just way too good. Like, Maryland is a decent team. Like, they're like a middle of the road Big Ten team. But, this Indiana team is just a monster right now. They destroyed UCLA last week by like 50 points. They beat two really good teams in Iowa, in Oregon. They beat Oregon on the road. They beat Iowa on the road. Mendoza's a Heisman frontrunner at this point. I feel like Indiana is just going to steamroll them. I'm going to say probably like a 45 to 17 game. What do you got?
Yeah, the other thing to note, too, is that Maryland's defense, with the exception of the Washington game, where that is kind of – I'm not saying one for one because Indiana has a better run offense, but they've been giving up an average of 300 yards a game. And, I mean, dude, you can't be averaging that against a team like Indiana. Not to mention, too, like we've said, Indiana's defense still is, really good. Yeah. So I feel like this one, Indiana, same thing kind of what they did with UCLA – they'll just, they will prove they are the better team, and, early or late, they'll find a way to win and run away with it. I'll go with the Hoosiers in a 38 to 17 win.
All right, here we go. I want to hear your thoughts first on Florida, Georgia, because I've got some thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
It's the annual meme of, all right, babe, it's time for, the annual Jacksonville beatdown. Yes, dear. So, obviously, now with Billy Napier fired, not this season, you can call it dead or whatever, but now, if you want to count it like this, if you want to look at the optimistic way, Florida's playing with house money. You got nothing to lose now. Georgia has everything to lose. So, if you take that aspect into it, obviously this rivalry has been just filled with upsets left and right. And we're going to see if, they finally let loose on the offense. What's interesting to note is passing yard wise, Lagway and Stockton have actually averaged almost identical in terms of total passing yards. The other thing is that Florida's kind of been having a better run offense than Georgia. The thing is, though, in this game, I think it is going to come down to how well Florida's defense can hang on, because that was the problem last year. It was more or less of, can the offense get enough points where the defense, once it gets into that fourth quarter, can hang on. And by the end of last year, especially when Lagway went down, there was only so much Florida can do. But in this game, because, Georgia's looked wounded. They've had really, games they should have lost, but they found a way to win. Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and ironically, the one they did lose was Bama. But in this one, again, if you want to go the optimistic way, Florida has nothing to lose, and they're just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink. But every team has thrown the kitchen sink at Georgia, and besides Bama, they found a way to survive. So I feel like Florida, they kind of similar in hockey. Once a new coach comes in, they kind of get that boost. Florida might look good, or maybe even better looking, especially with how Billy Gonzalez lets the offense run. But I feel like Georgia just finds a way to win in the end because they're just these cockroaches that won't die. So I think the Bulldogs win. I'm going to go with let's do 31 to 21. Also to note, Florida has not beaten Georgia at a full capacity Jacksonville since 2016. So it's been a long time coming.
No, to all your points, I agree with, because, having fired Billy Napier and now with the bye week, implementing the system that Billy Gonzalez wants to do, having, Russ Callaway still is the offensive coordinator, but then what is the guy's name, the QB coach? Ryan O'Hara, is that his name? Mm-hmm. He's going to be calling plays. So he'll be in DJ's ear the whole time. I think defensively, I know I've heard other people talk about it with the injuries, that's going to be a concern. So secondary-wise, there were a lot of young guys playing at the end of that Mississippi State game. Will that be the case here? Because likely Georgia could take advantage of that if that's the case. I like Florida to be able to hinder Georgia's run game, because I haven't seen much out of Georgia's run game a ton all year. I like. I mean, they were better in the Ole Miss game. I will say that. The Auburn game, they struggled to run the ball well, but Auburn probably has a better defense than Ole Miss, so you can see that there. As far as like though with Florida, it's kind of wide open. Like we don't know what to expect. Like, you know, Billy G has never been a coach, never been a coordinator. You know, he's leaning on Urban Meyer. He's leaning on Dan Mullen, both two guys that have beaten Georgia. Urban beat Georgia pretty consistently while he was here. Dan only beat them once, but, you know, he still did beat him, and he beat him pretty significantly in that 2020 game. So leaning on them is a good resource because they know what to do against, you know, a Kirby Smart defense. I feel like, you know, I would want to pick Florida in this game because of like the optimism towards them and like the fact that there is a lot trending in their right direction with them. But because of like the injuries on defense, the like still we don't know what we're going to get out of DJ. It still could be like hit or miss. I feel like the offense can flourish though. Like that's what's crazy. It's like this could be, you know, a real, I don't know, eye opener, a real like, you know, just refreshing taste of relevancy again with this kind of game because, you know, Georgia doesn't know what to expect coming to this game. They could really throw everything at them and, you know, they would be kind of on their heels a lot, but I don't know. Georgia's a better team right now. They only have that one loss to Alabama. You know, they played really well against Ole Miss. They beat Auburn on the road. You know, they're just a better team right now. I'm going to say Georgia wins like I'm going to say a close one. I'm going to say like a 24-20 game, and maybe Georgia scores a late touchdown to win. And, you know, Billy G has a really good game plan, but it's just not enough. Okay, moving on to next game we got is Texas Tech, Kansas State. A resurgent Kansas State. They were left for dead like in the beginning of the year, and now Kansas State has really kind of positioned themselves to make something here, and this game would go a long way for that. Sorry. First time sneeze, now I'm sneezing again. It's like you know, you open the door, look what happens. I'm sneezing all the time. No, okay, so Kansas State lost Will Hammond for the year, so Texas Tech, and so Texas Tech is now going back to Baron Morton. You know, it is kind of wide open for them. Like if Baron Morton goes down, I don't know what to expect out of those other two guys that they have as backups. Hold on a second. Jeez. But as far as Kansas State, Avery Johnson's still looking great. You know, they smoked Kansas last week. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even close. And, you know, Avery sometimes doesn't put up huge numbers, but he had 11 completions for 231 yards. That's very efficient football right there. You know, they've got a solid team. If Baron Morton is healthy enough and plays this whole game, I think they win it, but it also is contingent because if he gets hurt again, I don't expect the like third string or fourth string guy to really be capable enough to win out, which is a shame because this Texas Tech looked like a real monster, but because of quarterback injuries, they've kind of been really reined in. I'm going to say Texas Tech wins, but it's going to be close, and it's dependent on those injuries. I'm going to say Texas Tech wins like, I don't know, like 27-24. What do you got?
I think it is dependent on how healthy the team is too, but also not only the fact of the passing game for Texas Tech, how well can the run do against this Kansas State defense? Now, Kansas State's defense has been giving up over 100, almost 150 yards rushing per game on average. So there is potential that if Morton is not like kind of firing on all cylinders, that you have to lean on the run game. But this is definitely trap game city. They're on the road to Kansas State. They haven't won. I saw a graphic. They haven't won in Kansas State since 2008. So, and Kansas State has an 8-year winning streak right now. So there's a lot of history against Tech right now. Now, obviously, both teams bounced back good. The other thing to note, too, is that K-State, all of their losses have only been by one possession. And most of them have been by field goals.
Right.
So I feel like in this one, man, how much do I think they can? You know what? I agree with you. I'm going to go with Tech. I think Tech wins very close. Kansas State gives everything they have, but Tech finds a way to win, especially if that run game is working. But I'm going to go with the Red Raiders. But this is a game I can easily see flip the other way in K-State winning. And then, you know, again, the Big 12 is blown up again. So I'm going to go Red Raiders winning. Let's do 30-24 win for Texas Tech.
It's crazy that a 4-4 team could be this dangerous, but they really are. They people thought they were going to be Big 12 contenders in the beginning of the year. So, there's talent.
I thought they were going to win the Big 12.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a talented team. It's just a real shame that I think that Army loss really kind of threw people off of their scent for a while. They should have won that game. And then, Iowa State was a tough one. It was the first game of the year, and it was raining and whatever. And then the Arizona game was tough. And Baylor, I don't know what to say of that one. They should have won that. They lost by 1 point. But let's move on to South Carolina, Ole Miss. Man, South Carolina is just – their schedule is just unreal. Like, I know Florida has had a really tough one, but, at least they've had some easy ones Florida-wise. They've had Mississippi State, and they've had, they've got Kentucky coming up. So, they've got some easy ones. It seems like South Carolina has had no easy ones since, week 5. And they've just been kind of, running through the gauntlet here. I feel bad for them. This game, Ole Miss is just on a roll right now. I know they lost to Georgia, but I feel like beating Oklahoma gives them the resurgence that they need. Chambliss is just, an effective quarterback. He's, he had 305 total yards against Georgia and 3 TDs. They've got good wide receivers. Lacey is a solid running back. I feel like, Ole Miss has struggled with better offenses, but South Carolina is not necessarily that kind of team. They're kind of like a middling offense right now, and their defense doesn't really scare anybody. So I feel like Ole Miss is going to be able to score some points. I'm going to say they're going to be able to score 30 plus. I'm going to say Ole Miss wins 34 to 21. What do you got?
And for me, what's going to come down to it is how well South Carolina's defense can handle the run, because they have not had a good run defense most of the year. And it's guys like Lacey. I've been waiting to see him have another breakout game. We know Ole Miss has been really good in the past, but I want to see them lean on the run again, because this is the perfect opportunity for them to do that. I feel like in this one, they're at home, for God, I don't know what South Carolina did to piss the SEC gods off to get the schedule, but man, this is brutal. Because even if you had to look before the season, you would be like, oh my God, LSU, Oklahoma, Bama, and Ole Miss all 4 weeks in a row. That's insane.
Brutal.
But I'll give them credit. Other than the Oklahoma game, they were in it in almost all of these.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
They're not going to lay down and die, but I feel like Ole Miss, after that win against Oklahoma, if the offense just keeps on firing on all cylinders, they'll find a way to win it. I'm going to go Rebels winning. I'll do a 34-20 win.
All right, moving on to Georgia Tech, NC State. I don't know a ton about NC State because they're not really that good of a team. I kind of put this one on here just because Georgia Tech now is really kind of like moving up the ranks. They're like top 10. So we got to like talk about them a little. And I want to watch more of their games as well. So I like highlighting teams that we're not paying attention a ton to. Tech, offensively is, a wrecking machine. They run the ball a ton with Haynes King and Haynes, the running back, and they're effective in the RPO. And, last 2 weeks, they beat a good Duke team 27-18, and then they destroyed Syracuse, but Syracuse is kind of like falling on bad times with their quarterback injuries. In that Duke game, Haynes King had 205 yards passing, 120 on the ground. They allowed Mensa to have a big game, but Mensa has big games no matter what, no matter who he plays. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. But as far as the run attack for Duke in that game, they had 68 yards. So Georgia Tech was able to hold them in check running the ball. But again, Mensa just throws the ball a ton, so that's kind of understandable. But this Tech team up against NC State, who is 1-3 in conference play, 4-4 overall. They do have a win against Virginia, which now looks very weird in retrospect because they haven't really beaten anyone since Campbell October 4th.
Yeah.
Which, who knows who Campbell is? I know it's an FCS team, but I'm just like, they lost to Vautech, who fired their coach. They lost. They got smoked by Notre Dame. Pittsburgh put up 53 points on them. I just expect the same here. I'm going to say Georgia Tech wins like 31 to like 17. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, and I just don't see NC State's defense keeping up with Tech. The defense has been really bad in a lot of these games, so I think Georgia Tech can just bully their way into this one, and I think they get it done. I'm going to go with let's do 31-14 win for the Yellow Jackets.
And speaking of that Pitt, and why I'm talking about it is because that Pitt-Miami game at the end of the year might determine if Miami gets in the playoff or not.
Yeah.
And that quarterback for Pitt, Heinzel, against NC State, had 423 yards and 3 TDs. So, like, I don't know. I know Miami fans are like, they think they might have a playoff spot, but they might not because 2 losses in the ACC is pretty much a death nail. Okay, moving on to Oklahoma, Tennessee. Oklahoma really licking their wounds after a loss to Ole Miss. Tennessee coming off a big win against Kentucky. Aguilar had nearly 400 yards, 3 TDs, but they allowed Kentucky to score 34 and allowed a guy named Cutter Boley to throw for 330 yards, which honestly Tennessee has been doing a lot of all year. Almost every team has been able to score on them. Georgia was able to score a ton of points. Mississippi State did quite well. I have not seen Tennessee really stop anybody. So I don't think that's gonna stop here. I think Oklahoma's gonna be able to score a decent amount. Now, the real thing in this game, I think the difference is going to be if Oklahoma can stop Tennessee's offense enough, which I think they're capable of. They've got a great D-line, so they can pressure the quarterback. They can get to Aguilar, and if that's the case, force him to make some mistakes, then I think Oklahoma can win this game. It's in Rocky Top. I don't know, man. Like this is a pivotal game for both of these teams because if they want a shot at the playoff, one of them has to like come out and take the chance here because this is essentially a playoff eliminator. I would say with Mateer, I like Mateer more as a quarterback. than Aguilar. Aguilar's still good. I just think I like Mateer more. And I feel like Oklahoma's defense is better. So I'm going to give Oklahoma the slight advantage here. I'm going to say Oklahoma wins like probably 34 to like 27. What do you got?
And this is a game where it's unstoppable force meets immovable object. Tennessee has the third best offense in the country, and Oklahoma has the fifth best defense in the country. Meanwhile, Oklahoma's offense has been pretty bad, and the defense for Tennessee is like in the 100 range in the NCAA. Yeah. So it really is going to come down to how well the Oklahoma defense does against the Tennessee offense, and then vice versa. I feel like, though, Oklahoma played a team like that in Ole Miss, and they couldn't get it done. I feel like this is going to be another close one, but I like Tennessee kind of winning out just because they're kind of more built for a shootout compared to Oklahoma, which is crazy to say right now. Yeah. But I feel like Tennessee can get it done. I'm going to go with the Vols winning the Hypo Bowl. I'll go with a 38-31 win for Tennessee.
The hypothetical bowl. No, yeah. Let's move on to USC, Nebraska. This Nebraska team, they are, after the last couple of weeks, they, barely beat Northwestern. They lost to Minnesota. They barely beat Maryland. They beat Michigan State. So they've been fortunate that they've had such an easy schedule. So, if they had played a tougher schedule, they might be like, a way worse record. But right now they're, I believe, 5-2, right?
6-2.
6-2.
Yeah, they just beat Northwestern.
Right. So they're 6-2. So, USC is 5-2, 3-1 in conference play. They had that loss to Notre Dame recently. They had the bye week last week. I think USC's offense is rolling. I think Nebraska's defense is good enough, but I feel like a loss to Minnesota is really devastating. And, allowing Northwestern to score 21 is kind of sad. But I don't know. I mean, it's really to USC. It's going to be their defense. Their defense has to show up. They struggle against Notre Dame mightily. They've got to keep Raiola in check, which I think they can. But, if he puts up a huge game, 300-plus yards, and, they're throwing the ball all over the field, it's going to be hard for USC to keep up, because that's going to be like a 34-35 type game. They've been in a couple of those games, though, so far. They were in that Illinois game and the Notre Dame game. So, but they lost both of those games. So they cannot really kind of keep playing those games because the defense puts them in a bad position offensively. So I'm going to say USC wins this one, but it's contingent on the defense showing up here, which I think they will. I know the game's in Nebraska, so it's going to be a difficult game. Nebraska has a really good home advantage, especially when they're a better team. Like right now, they're 6-2, so the crowd's going to be into it. I feel like USC wins. I'm going to go probably 31 to 27. What do you got?
I think in this game, Nebraska, obviously USC has the number one offense in the Big Ten and in the country for that matter, and they have the number one passing offense. But Nebraska is second against the pass, only allowing 127 yards on average. I feel like that is going to be the deciding factor. But the one thing to note is that Nebraska has been giving up over 150 yards on the ground. So that is something that USC could possibly exploit with the running game with guys like Wayman Jordan. They can kind of
Well, Jordan's still out.
Oh, is he? Oh,
yeah. The two injuries. They're Jordan and can't remember the other guy's name, but they're the one guy's out for the year, and then Jordan I think is out until like probably like the end of the season. So they have that King guy,
King Miller.
Walk on. Yeah, he's the walk on, and he's been doing well, but you can't really. I don't know what you expect out of a walk on running back.
Yeah, I feel like regardless of who's running the ball, if they can get it to where it's third and manageable, they've got kind of played Nebraska's game. They got them where they want them. Maeva doesn't have to like have an awesome game to really win this. It helps, but I feel like you can go for like the play action pass and get the big play there, but making it, more high percentage passes is probably the best way to kind of beat this Nebraska team. And on the other hand, I agree with how USC's defense has got to be in this one. Just don't get beat over the top. Make, them have to run the ball and have Raiola possibly run the ball. If you can win the middle of the field, USC's got Nebraska where they want them. This is a typical, though, USC Big Ten matchup where they're kind of been stuck with. They lost to Illinois. They lost to, if you want to count Notre Dame being in Indiana. Those games aren't really USC's specialty, but now you got to go into Lincoln, Nebraska. It's at night. Man, I'm going to go with SC because I like the offense, bouncing back. They are off a bye week and recovering there, and Nebraska's kind of been skating by. I'm going to go SC winning a close one. I'll go with a 27-24 win for the Trojans.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be close. It just seems like it. Like, Nebraska is not like a top tier team right now, but they're definitely like second tier Big Ten right now. And it would go a long way for Nebraska and Matt Rule. Like, if they won this game, like, people would start taking notice. But I feel like USC is the better team, and I feel like they're going to get it done. Okay, maybe the game of the day that like is not getting a ton of notoriety, but you got one loss, Cincinnati. You got this Utah team that lost to two really good teams in Texas Tech and BYU. And this is a great game. Like, the funny thing is, I don't expect more than like 200 yards passing from either of these teams. So it's going to be run the dang ball, and it's going to be all game long. Like, you will probably see, like, I don't know, 40 carries at least from Cincinnati, and you're going to see like at least 45 carries from Utah. So if you like running the ball, watching teams run, like, this is going to be your highlight of the year. Cincinnati has looked really good after that loss to Nebraska. I think they've won 7 straight games or something like that, 6 straight games. And, at times they look better than others, like that UCF game. They kind of struggled with UCF, but they smoked Baylor. That game was never really close. They looked pretty good against Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma State is terrible. But again, that Iowa State game, they were up big in that one quick. Iowa State came back to make that look a lot closer. But this Cincinnati team is no joke. I mean, Sorsby, he's like a decent enough quarterback. He doesn't put up a huge amount of passing yards, but he's very good at running the offense. He can run the ball very well. And their defense has been really good in these games. They've kept offenses in check for the most part. Baylor has been putting up huge numbers against almost everyone, and Baylor looked pretty pedestrian. Sawyer Robertson had 137 yards in that game. So, Cincinnati is a very capable team. Honestly, I'm going to pick Cincinnati. And I know you're going to tell me the Salt Lake City stats.
Yeah.
You love telling me those stats. But I just feel like Cincinnati's going to win this one. I feel like they're riding high right now. Utah is still a very good team, and I think they're very poised to be, a player. But I feel like Cincinnati's got a lot riding on this game because if they can win this game, they've got a real shot of getting to the Big 12 championship game. So I'm going to say Cincinnati wins. I'm going to say like a 34-30 game, and like maybe Cincinnati has the ball last and scores late to win it. What do you got?
And not going to bring up the Salt Lake City stats, obviously, now after that. But for this one, I think one thing to note is that of Cincinnati's wins, the only ones that were in a kind of not near the bottom barrel of the Big 12 defense was Iowa State. And credit to them, they got off to that start and they never looked back, no matter how much Iowa State. But UCF, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Kansas are all near the bottom of defense.
Yeah.
Now you got to play Utah, the number one defense in the Big 12, especially against the run. I feel like in this game, Utah will just play keep away, run the ball, make sure as good as the Cincinnati's defense or offense has been looking, don't test it. Because I feel like they can run the ball, and I feel like Utah's defense can get enough stops. Because Cincinnati has not played a defense like this, I think the Utes get it done. I'm going to go with a low-scoring one. I'll go with a 24-17 win for Utah.
You don't think there's going to be a ton of points in this game?
I don't think so, because I think it's going to be like one of those where every scoring drive is going to be like those 6-7 minute drives. I feel like a lot of these teams both of these teams are going to play keep away a bit.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing, like why I would counter with that is just the fact that both these teams like explosive runs.
That's
but
true.
If the defenses are good enough, then you might be right. They might be able to limit the explosive runs here, and that would make it more of a slog and more of a long 10 12 play drives that take forever. So you might be right. I don't know, we'll see. I'm excited. It's like a late game. I think it's like a 10 Eastern game, right? Yeah, so I don't know how many people are going to be watching it. I will. But either way, that is the show. Reach us at haterradio.com for all of our articles. I got one on Billy Napier. Ian's got his article about the USF Memphis game. And then find us on socials. You can find us by just typing in Hater Radio. It comes right up. Ian, what is your socials before we go?
Yeah, at Twitter, it's at G5Gibson. And at YouTube and Instagram, it's at G_Gator_G.
Sweet. Okay. Happy Halloween, y'all. We'll talk to you on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Enjoy these games, and we'll talk to you then. Take care.